This will be a guide for brand new players to somewhat new players. This video will go over the absolute basics such as the talent tree, rotation, and a few more additions to improve gameplay. I'll put chapters throughout the video for easy navigation. Before we start, I would like to lend myself some credibility. As of patch 10.1, I have held the number 2 Fury Warrior spot on Warcraft logs for normal Aberrus, as well as multiple top 10 spots in the past. In order to format this video, I will be using what I have called a pyramid of needs. This pyramid starts broad at the bottom, and the higher you climb, the more precise it is. That being said, let's begin. At the very bottom of the pyramid, we have armor type. As a warrior, we wear plate gear. Wearing a full set of plate gear will grant us a 5% boost to our primary stat. This will directly increase our damage, so never wear a piece of armor that isn't plate. Moving on to loot specialization. For reasons I'll mention later, we don't want one-handed weapons to drop. To avoid this, right-click on the player frame, hover over loot specialization, and switch it to arms. This is the same exact loot table aside from one-handers not dropping. This is what we want. To clear up some common misconceptions that new players have, transmog does not affect damage. It is simply there as an option to spruce up your character. Personally, I use it to make my character look like Garrosh. Climbing up into tier 2 of the pyramid, we encounter proper bar setup. Now, I don't want to tell you exactly how to set up your bars because it's a very personal thing, but what I can do is give some pointers. To start out, you want your bars in a place that is easy to see at the same time as your character's feet. For example, I have my bars almost wrapped around my character. I know a lot of people don't like my vertical bar setup, but the reason why I have them that way is because of my mouse. I have an MMO mouse with 12 buttons on the side. If there's one piece of gaming equipment I would recommend, it would hands down be the MMO mouse. If you wish to move your bars around, simply open the menu and go to Edit Bars. Click on the bars to open a submenu to enhance further, then click and drag around to your heart's content until your bars are exactly how you want them. Now that you have your dream UI set up, let's start chipping away at the rotation. In brief, the main idea is that you want to use Rampage as much as possible while also keeping other abilities on cooldown. That is an extreme oversimplification, but it will do for now. The priority after Rampage goes Onslaught, Execute, Raging Blow, Bloodthirst, and then Whirlwind. This priority shifts a lot throughout the course of rotation, and also depending on whether you're fighting. If you follow this, your damage will be respectable. Now let's go over what those abilities actually do. Onslaught does a decent amount of damage as well as granting a wide variety of buffs. This ability is just insane and is a must press, second only to Rampage. Execute is a pretty cut and dry ability, only pumping out big damage and rage generation. Raging Blow is also pretty simple. It is your bread and butter rage generator. Lastly, Bloodthirst only does a small bit of damage, but a decent amount of healing when needed. That's it for now. We'll come back to the rotation at the end of the video. At this level, only a few of these talents are required to be successful. The talent tree you see on screen right now is the same one I use as the default / mythic dungeon build. The damage of this build is only slightly lower than the single target version of it, even on single target. I would recommend becoming comfortable with this build first before moving on. Essentials on the left tree are Rallying Cry, Heroic Leap, Leeching Strikes, Pain and Gain, Titan's Torment, and Thunderous Roar. The key talents on the right tree are Improved Enrage, Rampage, Recklessness, Meat Cleaver, Anger Management, Tenderize, and Hurricane. I'm not going to go into much detail here, but trust me, this is a lot of AoE burst damage. You can either copy this build from the graphic on screen now, or use the import code I've left in the description below. For key bindings, you're going to want to put more important abilities in easy to reach spots, as well as grouping abilities of the same type. For example, I have Rampage on 3 because it's quite easy to reach on either hand. I would put the entire core ability set on the same scheme of buttons. Let's take a look at my setup for an easier visual. See, I have pretty much all of the rotation on the 1 to 9 keybind. I also have another bar mounted on top of my core one so I can see the remaining cooldown of my major abilities like Recklessness and Avatar. Look at my crowd control abilities. See how they're all bound to control something? This is what I meant by grouping your abilities. If you don't have an MMO mouse or just aren't comfortable with pressing all of the buttons on it, I would stick to maybe a 1 to 4 with some letter hotkeys like F or Z. Using Shift, or Control, or Alt modifiers is also a great way to obtain more key bindings. If you wish to create some, just press Escape, Edit Mode, then the bar you wish to edit, and finally the keybind button. Simply hover over the box while pressing the desired hotkey. Finally, we reach the rotation. As I said earlier, the main idea is to press Rampage as much as possible. Casting Rampage consumes 80 rage. In order to generate rage, you must press abilities like Raging Blow, Execute, Bloodthirst, Onslaught, Charge, Dragon Roar, Whirlwind, or Ravager. Depending on the situation, there'll be an optional choice. Let's assume that we are in an AoE situation with the build I've given earlier. Right before the fight starts, you will first look to see if you have your battle shout buff on. After that, you'll press Recklessness, Avatar, your trinket if applicable, and Racial if applicable. I will put a macro in the description to make this easier. Immediately after, charge a target. As soon as you can, drop Ravager on the targets. From here, you'll want to cast Whirlwind to grant the Meat Cleaver buff. This will make your next 4 abilities hit 4 additional targets. From here, you'll enter your core rotation. Start spamming away at Rampage. At this point in time, you'll have an insane amount of rage generation. In some cases, you may even press Rampage twice in a row, especially when your gear gets better. Make sure to keep a mental note every 4 abilities to refresh your Whirlwind buff. You can see how many you have remaining by looking at your buff bar that is defaultly in the top right of your screen. Once the pain trade dies down, you will focus on the aforementioned ability priority. It is very important not to overcap your rage. This can be hard during cooldown, so don't worry about it then. See how my ability casts are quite repetitive? Each rotation cycle is pretty much the same aside from a few ability casts. Also notice how I immediately cast Recklessness and Ravager as soon as they come off cooldown. One of the best tips I can give the new Fury Warriors is just to press your cooldowns. They have an extremely short downtime, so you're better off just pressing them. And with that, this guide comes to an end. This guide is my first attempt at something of this magnitude. I apologize for the editing mistakes and whatnot. I hope this video helped as well as entertained. Depending on the feedback, and that's if I get any, I might try to up the ante in the detail department in a future video. I have so much more I could share, but I wanted to keep this video digestible for new players. Since my channel is so small, feel free to contact me for additional information if you'd like to. I have my socials in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed, dislike if you hate me, leave a comment if you want people to kick a puppy, and I'll see you in the next video where I'm taking money from homeless people and buying Roblox gift cards with my newly found wealth.